So Misha, thank you so much for seeing me today.
My pleasure.
Listen, you know, I've been following you for a while now, and you have been on some roller coaster of a health journey. Hats off to you. I speak to so many people every day with irritable bowel disease of one description or the other, but you know, your journey has been a roller coaster, to say the least.
It's been wild.
Been wild. So you have both colitis and Crohn's.
Mm-hmm.
Talk me through, what does that mean to you day to day, first of all?
So obviously managing any medical conditions hard, and it takes a lot of practice as well.
Yeah.
I had to learn a lot. There's a lot of education around it as well. But
yeah.
You know, those conditions have massively subsided since I've had a stoma fitted. The management of those two conditions when they were active and live was very difficult.
Yeah. And talk me through, like May 2013, that's really when it all began for you. Talk me through what happened.
So I was at university, normal student, 21 years old, just living my life, going out and partying.
Yeah.
And I just fell ill, really ill. Saw 3 different GPs, didn't get a diagnosis. So my dad ended up coming down from London to look after me, took one look at me and said, "You're not right. Something's not right." I knew something was, but you hope the professionals would pick it up.
Yeah.
And from that moment, went into hospital. I was told that I actually had a ruptured appendix at the time. But it was so bad, they had to put me into an induced coma. And I was actually given a 20% chance of survival after I fell into that coma. So my weight dropped down rapidly. I was at about 5.5 stone.
From what before?
About 12.5 stone.
Oh my God. And how quickly did you lose that weight?
It would have been pretty instant. So when you're in a coma, your body goes for muscle tissue, fat sources quite quickly when it's trying to keep you alive. So I would have lost that within under a week period.
Oh my God, that must have been so frightening.
Really scary, yeah.
And you know, what were the medics saying to your family, to your friends at that time? What were your family thinking? Yeah,
well, obviously I was out of it. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But my mum was told to expect the worst because of that 20%. Thankfully, because I was so fit and healthy, my body responded in a really positive way, and I managed to come out of it and had to learn to walk again, to eat again. So it was, as much as it was physically taxing, the mental side of it was really hard as well.
And how did you get into that frame of mind? Because I did read that that the doctor said you would be in hospital for a considerable amount of time, but you were like out of here in 4 weeks.
I'm out in 4 weeks.
Yeah. So how did you get your headspace? You know, how did you get that fighting mindset?
I think, like, you know, when you put an obstacle in front of you, you either are in a situation where you give up, or you're in a situation where you go, hang on, I'm going to see what I can do. And I've always been one of those people where I'll have a little moan, I'll have a sulk initially, which is fine, a lot of tears, and then I'll try and find a way around it. And that's all I've done in a short period of time. I tried to do everything that I could within my power to overcome it, and it worked, you know.
It's amazing. And then for about 8 months then you started to gain weight, you got back to a healthy weight, but all wasn't right. Talk me through what happened next. Yeah,
so I started to get back to a healthy weight. Obviously I had a 9-inch incision, so I had a large scar that needed to re-heal. But basically in that 9 months I started going to the toilet more, and my body was responding very oddly. So I was getting a lot of autoimmune responses. My skin was coming up in hives. And that started off very minor. And then I was going to the toilet at the peak 50 to 60 times a day, losing loads of blood. And I also, like, my airways were closing, my eyes were rupturing. It was very bad. My limbs were about 3 times the size of what they should be, so I couldn't walk. I was basically bedbound. And I kind of thought that was the way I was going to have to live, because they couldn't identify what exactly was going on in that period of time. And then, like you said, it took probably about a year of testing for them to figure out what was going on with me.
And so the day that you got your diagnosis, that must have been a huge relief then.
It was a very, very good day, because when you don't really know what's going on with your body, I was thinking cancer, maybe they hadn't stitched something up inside properly. There was a whirlwind of things going on in my head, and you always expect, you Google and you think it's going to be the worst. So when I got my prognosis of having those conditions, it was actually a massive relief for me.
So what happened then? Like, you got your obviously you were put on prescription medication, because we see people all of the time across our pharmacies who are on various different prescription medicines for ulcerative colitis and for Crohn's and diverticulitis and all of the rest. So I guess you were put on a medicine regime then for a while?
Yeah, so they initially put me on your sort of mesalazines and your azathioprines.
Yeah.
And I remember being 21 and looking in my hand and thinking, do I want to be taking 16 tablets a day for the rest of my life? I was like, this is crazy. I was completely healthy and normal before that. And I basically went through, over the course of 4 years, the roller coaster of taking medications and hoping they worked. And it was a really bad part of my life, if I'm being honest. It was one where I was constantly anxious. I was analysing everything that my body was doing and how it was responding. I would constantly be looking at all my stool down the toilet to see if there was any blood. And it wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life. I just felt completely out of control. I couldn't plan anything. Okay.
And at that time, you were still going to the bathroom quite frequently?
Yeah, it changed things to a degree.
Okay.
So it changed things maybe. I'd say if I said I'm at 100% right now, I was maybe at 40% for 4 years.
Oh, for 4 years.
Yeah, which is, when you're sick like that, you forget that you're ill. You just think it's normal.
That's normal,
and it's not.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to be someone who was at like a point where I couldn't progress in any area of my life. My friends were having kids, getting married, going travelling, progressing in their career, and I was just back at my mum's house.
You felt stuck, did you?
Yeah, I felt completely lost. And there was points in that time where I wanted to take my life. I didn't want to be here. Yeah. And they were really bad times. I remember them like very strongly. They were bad times.
Okay. It's funny how, your mental health is absolutely connected to your physical health, and we see that all of the time. How a physical disability, I guess, can absolutely knock on something else.
And it's not something that's spoke about.
Yeah, exactly. And tell us then, so for 4 years you felt, I suppose, the tug and the pull and the push or whatever, people talk about that all of the time to me. So what made you make this like life-changing decision for you?
So when you're experiencing these things, you start to, get really fed up. I just felt fed up.
Okay.
And if you were to tell me on the first day where I started taking medication that you were going to have a stoma in 4 years, I would have laughed. And the doctor said that to me. He said there's a probability, because your bowel disease is so bad, you might end up with a stoma. And I just ignored what he said. My mum said, did you listen to what he said? And I was just like...
You just blanked it?
Yeah, just blanked it. Whereas where I went through so much in that 4 year journey, by the time I got to that pinnacle point, I was like, I'm ready for change. Okay. And that was where I went to see my consultant, and I was like, I need this done. And he literally stood up, he walked across to the other side of the corridor, got the surgeon, and they booked me in his overtime on the next weekend.
Oh my
goodness.
I had
4 or 5 days to think about it.
All right. So you were just done?
Done, yeah.
You were just like done mentally,
just
you had made the
exhausted
decision.
physically and mentally. I needed a change.
Okay. So we would see a lot of people in that period where they are weighing up the pros and the cons, because it sounds like you very much opted in for this.
Yes.
Whereas other people, in my experience, have been told, this is something that you should consider, or that they've been told to get the surgery done, and they're trying to weigh up the pros and cons of it, but they're terrified. Absolutely terrified, because they think that their life is going to be over. They're not going to have a normal life anymore. Talk me through how you made that decision and what advice you would give to them.
Yeah, I would say to people that are making the jump, naturally with any surgery, there can be complications. I sit here right now as someone who's had the best of living with a stoma. But there will be people out there that have had some complications, and it's not going smoothly. But there's other alternatives once you've made that first step. Do you see what I mean? There is other things that you can do. I personally think for me, like if I look at my whole journey, my stoma has enabled me as opposed to disabled me. And a lot of people don't see it like that. Like you said, they see it as like something that's going to be a negative outcome. Absolutely. But I always say to people, if you look at your life right now, can you live how you are forever? And the likelihood is a lot of people, the way that they're living right now with bowel disease isn't sustainable. So you need a change. And your stoma could be that change that massively opens doors for you. And it has for me.
Sounds like it's been really empowering for you. You've got back control of your health.
Yes.
Do you feel like that? Because that's the sense I get from you.
Yeah, at 100%. But literally, there's not, for me, the positives completely outweigh any negatives for me having a stoma. Like it's so worth it. And I'm speaking as someone who's, was going to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. I'm a rehab coach by trade. So I knew that if I get a stoma, I still want to be able to be physical. I want to be able to do things. I don't want it to hold me back. Yes. And if anything, when I look back at my whole journey, my bowel disease was the thing that was holding me back. Having a stoma is the thing that's enabled me to move forward.
Wow. So in terms of exercising, because people ask us this all the time, does your diet have to change? There's
changes. It's your digestive system. Yeah. But there's already changes that you would have had to make because of your bowel disease. So I would say at the beginning, there's dietary changes. Exercise, you need to be wary because you've got scar tissue, you've got a hole in your abdomen from your stoma. Yeah. But if you've got the right guidance and you get the right help, really anything's possible. I've done skydives. I've cycled 120 miles on a bike. I've done everything. I've travelled.
Hasn't held you back at all. No. Yeah. Not at all. And swimming, people often ask us about swimming as well. Can you swim? It's not an issue at all.
You can swim. I obviously designed a brace for people to be able to go swimming more comfortably, because obviously the bag moves a little bit in the water if you're in the sea. Yeah. And it gives me more comfort. But you can go swimming, you can bathe, you can shower, you can do everything. Yeah, literally, there's not a lot you can't do.
Okay. Okay. And Misha, do you take any supplements at all to improve or support your gut health?
Yeah, so I take protein shakes sometimes, I see how they respond with my body. But the main one I take consistently is Improve.
Oh yeah, we're big lovers of Improve.
So basically, because I've only got a small part of my colon left, it's still worth looking after. And that's what I always try and explain to people.
Okay. And the last question then, in terms of people trying to make this decision, we often get it from younger demographic, and they're afraid that this will change their possibility of getting into a relationship. They think that possibly a potential partner, might view this as a negative thing, might feel embarrassed about it. What would you say to someone in that frame of mind?
I think, it's a really good way to sieve out a bad person.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would use it as a tool.
Yeah.
If you find the right person, they will love you for you. Yeah. And I think that's a really important message. If someone looks at you negatively or says something that is shallow because you've got this, you can't help it. It's part of you. It's part of your body.
Yeah.
So if anything, I would say, it's when I take my partner, for instance, she didn't even acknowledge it. She was just and then when I did tell her about it, she was like, cool, tell me more.
Yeah.
She was interested to learn more. So I think, it's nothing you should be ashamed of. And the confidence about your condition and stuff comes from you as an individual.
Yeah.
It's important that you love yourself before you can start to give that to someone else as well.
Yeah. And that's something we talk about all of the time in Meaghers, because even when people come to collect their ostomy products from us, they would often, be almost looking around to see who's there. They'd be asking, can you double bag it? They feel very embarrassed about it themselves.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who is in that frame of mind? Because I think it is a mindset.
It is. You need to talk to people. Community and communication are vital. If you can connect with other people that are going through the same thing as you, it can completely change your mind frame. And that's why I stepped onto the social space and have been a presence online, is so people can go, right, this guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
You need to be able to connect with someone who's in a similar age group to you and going through the same things as you, in order to make you realise that, hang on a minute, this isn't something that's going to hold me back. I can do this. I shouldn't be ashamed of this. Yeah. And sometimes that comes from just connecting to someone and talking to someone.
And not feeling alone, I guess.
Yeah, exactly that.
And that's what you've been incredibly powerful about. Yes. You are an ambassador for, I suppose, education around this, supporting people, getting people to actually feel, this is okay, this is me. And I just want to applaud you for that.
And thank you so much. It's been so lovely to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah. That's all right. Brilliant.